My adopted sister insisted on giving birth to a super baby whose father was unknown, but she turned around and asked me and my husband to adopt her. After I refused, my good-tempered husband stood against me for the first time. Today is the full moon banquet of my adopted sister's son. She said in a high-handed tone that she had something important to notify me and asked me to be there. Today is also my daughter Xu Aobao's 4th birthday. My husband, Zhu Ming, and I took my daughter out of the hospital and took her to her favorite aquarium. Zhu Ming left in a hurry at noon because of something and promised to celebrate my daughter's birthday in the evening. Who knew that when I took my daughter home, I saw an uninvited guest at home? My mother's sharp voice covered the sound of the doorknob turning. I am his mother. How could I not know him? He has a weird temper and a bad heart. You don't have to care about her opinions. You are her man, and she should listen to you. I pushed the door open and looked at her expressionlessly. My mother wanted to say something, but she shut up immediately after. My daughter, who was tired from playing, fell asleep in my arms. In order not to wake her up, I spoke very softly. My mouth was almost rotten. Please stop gossiping behind others' backs. He stared at me with his eyes and touched the window at the corner of his mouth, then naturally. I smiled and shook my head and sent my daughter to the room upstairs first. After going downstairs, Xu Ming felt his finger looking at me and opened his mouth several times but didn't open it. I am a husband with a mild temper and a soft. It seems that my mother or my adopted sister has made some request. It must be related to the important event that my adopted sister Yang Ping told me today. Sure enough, Yang Ping couldn't wait to speak. Sister, look how cute Kiao is, and my brother-in-law likes her very much. Why don't you adopt her to raise her? I raised my hand to stop her and said, no, I can't afford it. My mother was acting for me. Oh, I'm so jealous. What will I do without a father in the future? I asked sincerely, is his mother dead too? Yang Ping looked aggrieved. I mean well, sister. Who will take care of you in your old age without a son? I sat down and continued to fight with them without any concern, and replied, my daughter. My mother said disapprovingly while holding her adopted sister's son, don't treat the girl as a treasure. Sooner or later she will get married and serve others. I don't think so. Isn't Yang Ping unable to get married and is relying on her parents at home every day? My mother raised her brows. Your sister is not in good health. How can she be t'others? I replied, yes, and then I will take you, an old maid, with me. My mother was so angry that she looked like she was going to die at any time. Xu Ming hurriedly stepped forward to support her. My mother knew that her fighting ability was not as good as mine, so she quickly winked at Xu Ming. Xu Ming frowned slightly, his eyes embarrassed. Xiao, you see, we can raise one more child. It's not that we can't afford it, so why not have a son and a daughter together, okay? Yes, the son-in-law is still thoughtful. He has both a son and a daughter, which makes a good name. I will only have one baby in my life. No cat or dog deserves the love of my daughter. I will always remember that when my parents brought Yang Ping home, they kept saying that they found a family for me and that the two sisters could support each other. But later, all kinds of things made me see clearly that the moment Yang Ping came to my house, I lost to family members. They always said that Ping is the younger sister and you as the elder sister should give in to her. Ping is so pitiful without her parents. You should give in to her. Ping is so cute. You are so stingy even if you want a Barbie doll. Just because Yang Ping is 1 month younger than me, my beautiful dress, my room, and even my parents have to give up. Otherwise, they are disobedient and ignorant. If Xu Ming was not just a poor boy when we got married, they would probably let me give Xu Ming to Yang Ping. I have tasted enough of the bitterness of partiality. My daughter must have all the love. I don't even plan to have a second child, let alone raise someone else's child. My mother still didn't give up. She brought out the words she used to trick me into accepting Yang Ping. When he grows up, what will happen if he is bullied without a mother's family? A younger brother can also protect him. It's great for the two siblings to support each other. I laughed and said, goodbye, that's a super bear. I will protect you. You got kicked in the head by a donkey. I didn't. My mother frowned and scolded me, but didn't dare. You turned it around your mouth a few times, put on a motherly look, and said, "This child has never been able to speak well since he was a child. Kiao is still so young. You can't teach him well in the future. When the time comes, you can hire a confinement nanny, a babysitter, and a child to start with." Listening to these stupid words, I laughed and applauded. "It's really amazing. You are going to have 3 princes in my family. Do you want to give Yang Pingping a branch? For example, Yang Pingping, the foot washing maid, had red eyes due to grievance. She hugged my mother's waist and acted like a spoiled child. I imitated Yang Pingping's manner and said in a sarcastic tone, "Mom, look at my sister. Mom, look at my sister. Mom, look at my sister. Mom, look at my sister." My useless husband wanted to be a peacemaker and came over to pat my arm, but I slapped him away. At this time, my daughter Bao Bao came downstairs, hugged me, and then went to hug Shuming. He giggled at Shuming and said, "Didn't Daddy say that he would celebrate my birthday in the evening? Where is my cake?" Shuming looked embarrassed, got up and went to the kitchen for a walk, and brought out a few dishes, which were obviously leftovers from outside. He bent down and explained to Bao Bao, "Dad forgot. Can I buy it for you another day?" My mother helped Shuming put the leftovers on a plate, saying, "Oh, Kiao, these dishes at the full moon banquet are all good dishes. For a little girl, you can just make do with your birthday. Why buy a cake?" I closed my eyes and felt fine. It turned out that Zhang Ming did not spend his daughter's birthday with her, but went to attend the full moon banquet of that super bear II. I walked over without hesitation, covered my daughter's eyes with one hand, and splashed Ming with the leftovers with the other hand. My daughter doesn't want to eat other people's leftovers. Looking at her embarrassed appearance, a sneer appeared on the corner of my lips. My mother and Yang Ping Ping circled Ming distressed lie, and I turned around and left with my daughter. In the dessert shop in the mall, he picked a kitty cake, ate a mouthful of cream, and pouted to complain to me, "Dad forgot to buy me a cake. I don't like Dad anymore." An aunt with a child next to him came over and smiled. "Dad is very hard. How can you dislike Dad just because he didn't buy you a cake?" I smiled and touched my daughter's head and douglated, "Why not? Since Yang Ping was adopted, I have never celebrated my own birthday." She was because we were not, or my parents forgot my birthday and only remembered Ping's birthday. Even if I have to celebrate my birthday, they also promised to give it to me on an ordinary day. On that day, the cake was mango flavor, which Yang Ping liked. He wore a princess dress and a small bag. The gift my father gave me was just one sentence: "Xiao Xiao, happy birthday, happy birthday." I immediately overturned the cake and ran out. They could see their hearts and advised more than one. But biased people never see their bias. They only think that they give you food and clothes. What else are you not satisfied with? After a long time, my aunt couldn't stand it and asked me if I wanted to live in her house. I longed for the warmth of the family in my heart, but I still refused because my aunt's family already had sister Yuan Yuan. I don't want to be a thief of other people's love like Yang Ping. They all advised me to be smarter and be sweet and coquettish like Yang Ping Ping. Maybe I can please my parents. But I don't want to. The more they favor Yang Ping Ping, the more taciturn and cold I am. I no longer ask for their love. Anyway, in their opinion, I should be satisfied as long as I have enough food and clothes. Later, I treated that home in the secular sense as a hotel, no longer had any expectations for them, and grew up well alone. On my wedding day, my mother cried and said, "I know you have been blaming me and your father for being partial to you, but your father told me at that time that Ping Ping would be shy when she first came home, so we should take care of her. How could parents not love their own children? But why did you become disloyal to us later?" I was not touched at all. I just wanted to laugh. I wanted to see when he could figure out why my father, a man who forced him to have 4 or 5 abortions just to give birth to a boy, would eventually adopt a girl into the family and treat her like a pearl and jade, even using his own daughter as a stepping stone. When I returned home, my mother and Yang Ping Ping were no longer there. I watched my daughter take the medicine and coax her to sleep. Before going to bed, My daughter leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Mom and Dad, there are only two chances." I smiled and rubbed her head. Walking into the living room, I looked at the large wedding photo on the wall. A little absence made Tian thought of the past. Zhang Ming and I were college classmates. She was handsome, gentle, and kind to everyone. In the popular sense, she was a central air conditioner. But for me, who had lived in an environment where my parents were extremely partial to me for many years, there was nothing wrong with central air conditioning. After all, if I favored this thing, I could take it back and give it to others at any time. Just like my parents, I had a strong personality and a bad temper. Even so, she never coaxed me during the relationship. So as soon as I graduated from college, I chose to marry Zhang Ming to escape my twisted family. Before my father died, I took the first startup capital from her and later caught up with the wind and made a lot of money. Xu Ming and I lived a comfortable life for several years. After we bought the villa, my mother and Yang Ping came here after hearing the news. My mother thought that the initial capital for my business was my father's money, so she and Yang Ping should have a share. After I refused, he went to the door of my company and made a scene until I took out the gift agreement. He let out his anger and kept muttering, "How could it be possible? Yes, how could it be possible? My dad loved Yang Ping for most of his life, so how could he be willing to give me all the private money he secretly saved? It was just a hush money for me." My dad never told my mom that he had a true love in his life, and it was her first love. It was just that my grandma thought that the first love looked like a widow, which was unlucky, so she forced my dad to marry my mom. My dad asked my mom to give birth to a son to carry on the family line. He asked my mom to get pregnant and then go to a black clinic he knew to check the gender. If it was a girl, she would have an abortion. She had 4 abortions in a row. When she was pregnant with me, the doctor at the black clinic couldn't stand it anymore and advised my dad that if he had another abortion, my mom might never get pregnant again. So she had no choice but to let my mom give birth to me. When the due date was approaching, my dad ran out every day in a daze. So when my mom started to have labor pains, no one was at home. She could only drag her heavy body out to stop a car. Many people were afraid of getting into trouble and didn't dare to intervene. The time dragged on. It became extremely dangerous. My aunt told me that my mother was in a coma when she was sent to the hospital. Later, she had postpartum hemorrhage, which was difficult to control. She could only stop the bleeding by removing the uterus. My mother collapsed when she woke up and said that she was no longer a complete woman and might as well die. When my father learned that I was a girl, he scolded my mother for being useless and left without going home for several months. My mother cried every day during the confinement period. My father prayed in front of the delivery room that his first love in the child would be safe and sound. Even though his first love gave birth to a girl, she felt sorry for his first love and said that it didn't matter whether he gave birth to a boy or a girl. They were all her babies. The baby daughter of my father and his first love is Yang Ting. After my grandmother passed away, my father wanted to divorce my mother, but not long after, her first love was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The first love said that she couldn't bear to break up our family and didn't want Yang Ping to be without a mother in the future, so my father made up a reason to coax my mother to adopt Yang Ping. Yang Ping always knew who his biological mother was, and she also knew the purpose of her coming to this family, so she was very competitive. With her sweet talk and weakness, she took away the little love from my parents that I had. When Yang Ping and I were in the 5th and 6th grade of elementary school, my first love was seriously ill, and my father was too busy to take care of her, so he learned that someone introduced an nanny job to my mother. My mother felt sorry for her sick employer at the time, and she had been taking care of her diligently until she died. It was also at that time that I discovered the slightest clues of my father and her first love. My first reaction was to tell my mother, but I got 2 ruthless slaps in the face. She said, "You are so jealous at such a young age. What good does it do you to lie and provoke the relationship between me and your father?" Later, I got the whole truth. But I didn't tell my mother because I found out that he was the kind of person who would resent you and destroy her illusion of a good life. In this case, why should I be the bad guy? It is better to use this information to exchange for tangible benefits. There was a bit of wind in the early morning, and my daughter kept coughing. I was holding my daughter and was about to go to the hospital. As soon as I walked out of the door, I ran into the two people who came to harass her. My daughter's face was red. I gently patted her back with my hand. The two of them blocked my way. I looked at them with a bad face and said, "If you have anything to do, come on." Yang Pingping looked at my daughter and gloated over her misfortune. She said with a mocking tone, "Oh, why does this girl always have a fever all year round?" I remember hearing someone say that this is because the family business is too big and she is unlucky and can't control it. If you adopt Kiana, maybe her illness will be cured. It turns out that she still refuses to give up on adoption. What's the point of adopting him? To use him as a medicine? I looked at her with disdain and continued, "How dare you say that my daughter is unlucky? Not only are your parents lucky, but they are also unlucky." Speaking of Yang Ping's mother, she became emotional and blurted out, "Your parents are unlucky." I looked at my mother with an ugly face, curled up the corners of my lips, and said firmly, "Yes, my parents are not only unlucky, but also cheap." My mother said angrily, "Why are you becoming more and more ignorant as you grow older? Mom, isn't this all for your own good? The little loser is so weak and sickly, who knows if he can be raised? Your sister gave birth to a son and gave it to you. How can you be ungrateful?" I was almost laughing with anger. "Do you really think that sons are so much better than daughters?" My mother nodded as a matter of course. Yang Pingping held her son in her arms with a proud look on her face. I sneered and said, "If you two really look down on your status as women, I can pay for you to go to Thailand." After I finished speaking, I turned around and left, ignoring their weak counterattacks. My daughter coughed badly, and I stayed in the hospital with her for several days. On the day of discharge, it was raining heavily outside, and I had no choice but to call Zhu Ming to pick us up. I called several times but couldn't get through. I turned around and saw a familiar figure. Oh, it turned out that the central air conditioner in our house was providing warmth to Yang Pingping and her child. Yang Ping smiled sweetly at Zhu Ming while holding the child. "Brother-in-law, it's a good thing you are here today." He gently rocked the child, pointed at Zhu Ming and said softly, "Look at Kiao," called Addie. Children of this age naturally can't speak. They just make babbling sounds. The nurse passing by heard these two strange names and looked back a few more times, but the two of them didn't notice. Zhang Ming carefully took the child from Yang Pingping's hands with a silly smile on his face. Looking at this picture, my eyebrows slightly frowned. My daughter hid behind me and poked her head out and called Daddy. Zhang Ming only then realized that we were mother and daughter and said in a panic, "Baby, why are you here?" He asked this question, and it seems that he didn't take it too hard at all that his daughter had been in the hospital for such a long time. I said coldly, "Let's see how you are a good father to others." A trace of guilt flashed in his eyes. "Xiao, don't get me wrong. I just feel sorry for the mother and daughter. Come to help. Let's adopt Kiana." Ping Ping, a woman, is not easy to take care of a child, and she doesn't understand what I say. He held the child in his arms and showed it to his daughter with a bit of joy showing off, and said, "Baby, look how cute your little brother is. How about taking him home today?" The daughter shook her head like a rattle. "No, I only want mom and dad, not a little brother." This time Zhang Ming's attitude was unexpectedly firm and obedient. "It would be great to have a little brother to play with you in the future." The daughter cried, "No, no, I don't want a little brother." Zhang Ming was disappointed. His tone was full of harsh accusations. "Baby, how can you be so selfish? Is it selfish to not want a little brother? Is it selfish not to share the 100 love that originally belonged to him with others?" I picked up my daughter. "Do you know where you get the nerve to morally blackmail for your old child?" Yang Ping spoke angrily. "Sister, you have never wanted to have a second child. Your brother-in-law's family must want a boy to inherit the family line. Your brother-in-law has never forced you. You should also think about your brother-in-law, right?" I raised my eyebrows. "Why, you gave birth to this child to inherit the family line for him? Should I praise you for being so thoughtful?" Yang Ping's face changed. She glanced at Zhang Ming for a moment and hesitated. That's not what I meant. His behavior seemed to be saying that there was something fishy going on. My heart skipped a beat and a guess came to my mind that needed to be verified. Zhang Ming's attitude was so abnormal. Could the child really be Zhang Ming's? My daughter lay on my shoulder. Hi, Mom, I don't want my dad anymore. He is a bad dad. I patted my daughter's back gently and looked up at the man in front of me. Zhang Ming is a good man in the eyes of many people, but he is indeed not a good father. Last summer, I had to go on a business trip for half a month because of work. The signal was not good in the deep mountains and forests, so Zhang Ming took good care of my daughter. When I came back, I found that my daughter had a high fever and had turned into pneumonia. The doctor told me that if I had come 2 days later, the child would have been in danger of death. At that time, I lay in front of my daughter's bed with an oxygen tube, hating myself for not taking my daughter on the business trip. As for Zhu Ming, I also had complaints. My daughter had a fever for nearly half a month, but he didn't notice it at all. Looking at my daughter's pale face, I hated myself and him. At one point, I thought that since she didn't care about the child so much, it would be better to divorce her. It was my daughter's little hand that pulled me and said that she didn't blame her father and she wanted it. My father also agreed with me to give Zhu Ming 3 chances, but now there is only one left. Zhu Ming is really useless. In order to cover up the traces, he specially changed a new mobile phone. But there was no choice but Yang Ping, who deliberately dragged her down and opened a small account to show off on the internet. As long as I want to check, all the past will be in front of me. It turned out that during the days when I was on a business trip, Zhu Ming fooled my daughter every day and went to take care of Yang Ping, who had a cold. Calculating the time, the child was also conceived at that time. Yang Ping recovered under her careful care, but she was also infected. He thought that he was a grown man and a little cold was not a big deal, so he kept dragging it on and went home sick as usual, without caring about the fact that there was a young daughter at home. So my daughter's poor health now was all due to him. I closed my eyes and raised my hand to break a pen. To be honest, I didn't feel sad much, but I felt more distressed for my daughter. Over the years, my relationship with Zhu Ming was more like a partner. The focus of my life was always on my daughter and my career. My relationship with Zhu Ming had long been dull, but it was just a divorce. I collected a series of evidence, sorted it out and stored it, and began to deal with our Zhu Ming's marital property. At this time, my daughter suddenly rushed in, hugged my legs, and said, my aunt said that my dad doesn't want me anymore because I have a younger brother. Dad, I don't want him either. Mom, divorce her quickly. Wang Zixian had a bad dad, and the bad dad would beat people. He deliberately acted pitiful and made me laugh. I agreed, and the good mom divorced your dad immediately. Zhang Ming didn't go home these few days, so I notified him on my mobile phone. He didn't know that it was my mother who came to the door first. She said, "You are an adult now. Don't be willful. Divorce is so shameful. Xiaozhu is so good to you. Don't be ungrateful." I raised my eyelids and smiled. Do you know why I want a divorce? My mother paused, but it seemed that she only wanted to scold me and didn't guess the reason for my divorce. Yan Ping's child is Zhu Ming's. You already knew it. My mother's face rarely showed a little guilty, but it disappeared quickly. He advised, how can a man not make mistakes? What's the big deal? The child is still young now. Just pretend you don't know how to raise him well, and he will be filial to you when he grows up. My mother has known for a long time that Yang Ping is pregnant with Zhu Ming's child. I can only say that we are worthy of being mother and daughter with the same fate and the same concealment. He continued, you chose Zhu Ming yourself, and the child is so big now. How can you divorce just like that? I smiled. If I don't make room for him, what will happen to Yang Ping? Bring him in as a concubine so that Zhu Ming can reap the benefits of his wealth. My mother's face flushed red, and her finger trembled as she pointed at me. She was speechless for a while. After a long while, she said, you have such a bad temper and you don't listen to advice at all. In the future, no man will dare to marry you. I just looked at him and laughed without saying anything. My mother saw that I looked like I was laughing at a joke, and she got a little anxious. I'm your mother. How can I hurt you? You are my mother, but do you know what you are more like? I looked at her word by word. You are more like a piece of chewing gum that has been spit on the ground, stepped on the sole of a shoe, and can't be shaken off no matter how hard you try. My mother raised her hand to hit me, but I stopped her with my backhand. Oh, I worked so hard to raise you to this age. How could I raise an enemy? You all knew that I was allergic to peanuts, but because Yang Ping likes to eat dishes that can be put with peanuts, you all put peanuts in them. I dare not eat more than a few bites of rice at home because I will have an allergy if I am not careful. Go to the hospital. You raised her like a little princess. Let me wear her old clothes that she didn't want a few years ago. When others asked why the elder sister looked so much thinner than the younger sister, you said it was because I was too picky about food. So who are you working hard to support? I know it very well. Don't try to frame me. I suppressed the grievances that surged in my heart, and then sneered and said, you have been belittling me and scolding me since I was a child. No matter what I do, you can always find faults. I thought you raised me as an enemy. At the beginning, I was eager to escape from my original family. I chose to get married after graduation and became an outsider of that family. Before getting married, I also thought whether Zhang Ming would be like my father, favoring boys over girls or cheating. But then I thought that divorcing Zhang Ming would be easier than cutting off roots with my original family. Moreover, Zhang Ming is a very soft-hearted person. As long as you can find his mistakes, he will make concessions without any bottom line. Even if we divorce one day, it won't be too troublesome to divide the property. I just didn't expect that this day would really come. After Zhang Ming came home, I put the evidence of his cheating on the table and asked her for a divorce. She knew she was guilty, uneasily agreed to leave the house without any effort to retain our marriage. She bowed her head and confessed to me. The general meaning was that Yang Ping and her son needed him more, so he could not take care of us mother and daughter in the future and could only leave all the money to us. I almost laughed out loud. Yes, they are the most beautiful mother and son. We mother and daughter should just ask for a little more property as compensation. In order to prevent more trouble, I signed the divorce agreement with Zhang Ming and went to get the divorce certificate. Zhang Ming only got the car he drove and the 20,000 yuan in savings on hand. As a result, Yang Ping was not satisfied. In his eyes, all the property in our family should belong to Zhu Ming. Since I filed for divorce, I should leave the house without any money. It was she who came to the door with my mother crying. They were locked outside the door and could only scold me through the door, which attracted many onlookers and neighbors to watch the fun. Fearing that others might misunderstand, I took out the loudspeaker I bought from the market a few days ago and explained to everyone. The one crying was my sister, who had just robbed her brother-in-law and was not satisfied, and now she came to rob my property. I set the loudspeaker to play in a loop and hung it at the door. The sound was so loud that it completely drowned out the volume of their crying. They felt victorious and refreshed. With my clear and concise explanation, their every move was like a joke. The neighbors looked at them strangely, and some people stood beside them and pointed at them openly. In the end, they said something cruel and ran away with their tails between their legs. As for what the last hideous sentence was, the loudspeaker was too loud, and I couldn't hear the music. I couldn't see my face, so my mother sent me a text message saying that you will be punished for being so unscrupulous. Retribution? I once thought about how much sin I had suffered in my previous life to get retribution and reincarnate into their family. I sneered and typed a reply saying that meeting your family, the retribution for Zhuir and Arsan, is just like this. After replying her, I blocked the contact information of the three of them. I didn't think about taking revenge on them. After all, we finally struggled to get out of the mud pit. Who would go back and step on the corner of the mud pit again? Naturally, it is most important for me and my daughter to live a good life. Didn't my mother also say that being unscrupulous will be punished? HAI's academic pressure is so great that even kindergartens are crowded. In order to give my daughter a healthy and happy childhood, my daughter and I decided to live in another city. The city is not important. The key is to find a good kindergarten. I am optimistic about a gourmet kindergarten that is different every day for 365 days. And my daughter is also very opinionated. She's optimistic about the handmade kindergarten next door. See, she smiled sweetly at me and said that she went to the kindergarten just to learn to make delicious food for me. My heart as an old mother was immediately captured by her, and I immediately decided to send her to a new kindergarten. It was also on the day I sent my daughter to the kindergarten that I found out that the principal was my second grade class teacher in elementary school. He was gentle, tolerant, and loving and took good care of me. I recognized him at first sight, but he didn't have a deep impression of me. He bent down and asked his daughter, "Mom is here to take you to school, but where is your dad?" The daughter replied with a cheerful smile, "My dad died after he cheated on me." The head teacher was stunned for a moment, straightened up, and turned to my face. She smiled slightly. "It's you. Your daughter is exactly the same as when she was a child." I smiled too. Yes, I was like this when I was a child. Every time there was a parent-teacher meeting, young Pink would always act like a spoiled child and ask my dad to attend the meeting for her, and then pester my mom so that she couldn't get away. No one attended my parent-teacher meeting, even though I got the first place in the exam. When the teacher asked about it, I simply said that my parents were dead. In my heart, his mom might as well be dead anyway. Even though I didn't specifically inquire about their recent situation, I heard a lot of rumors that their family of four was not doing well. Zhang Ming's central air conditioning personality would never change. Even if they got married, Ming Ming would still go out to warm others. And Yang Ping Ping, a person who monopolized all the love of my parents, how could she tolerate Zhang Ming's good temper to everyone? He began to impose more restrictions on Zhang Ming. Gradually, Zhang Ming also discovered that he was not as weak and pitiful as he had seen at the beginning. They began to quarrel constantly. After a quarrel, Zhang Ming went drinking with his friends. While drunk, he took his friend's mobile phone to call me. Xiao Xiao, I was wrong. I didn't expect him to be that kind of person. He was always pretending to be pitiful to me at the beginning. What took me as his emotional trash can? I frowned and didn't say anything. My daughter came in with milk. He had a stern face and looked like a little adult. "Mom, drink milk. Go to sleep after drinking milk. Don't play with your phone all the time." I took the milk and rubbed her little head. The voice from the other end of the phone said, "Baby, forget about him." I hung up the phone, decisively unblocked the number in one go. In the blink of an eye, a few years passed, and my daughter had became a glorious primary school student. I didn't have any requirements for her, but she was unexpectedly hardworking and motivated. In order to have better educational resources, my daughter took the initiative to ask to go back to high to go to school, so we moved back. In addition to attending classes at school, he also asked me to enroll him in an eloquence class. In 2 years, his mouth was more eloquent than mine, and he was no longer the little girl who could only say no. Watching my daughter grow up healthily and happily, I was extremely glad that I was able to get out of the quagmire in time and stay away from that group of garbage. But I didn't expect that she was still too young. We met in a children's playground. At this time, young Ping Ping and Jung Ming's son Juqiang was 5 years old. Because of the Zhu Zhang gene, he looked much stronger than his peers. He ran around in the playground and made many children cry. This made several parents very angry, and they came forward to ask Yang Ping for an explanation. Yang Ping was still recording the video with his phone and said casually, "It's normal for boys to be a little naughty. Can't your child just hide a little?" His camera followed Zhuqiang's figure, and he kept praising him. "Kiaoer is great, so energetic, and you can tell at a glance that he is your mother's little man." "Ouch, are you tired? Come and have a drink of water." At this time, Yan Ping Ping met my gaze. He seemed a little surprised. He held Zhu Yang in his arms and looked at me vigilantly. I smiled slightly and turned my head to look at my daughter, who was having fun. Yang Ping Ping noticed my daughter in my sight. Her eyes turned a few times and she whispered a few words in Zhuqiang's ear. Then Zhuqiang glared and rushed straight towards my daughter, raising his hand to snatch the toy from her hand. I was worried that my daughter would be hurt by him, and my heart tightened. Just as I was about to rush over, I saw my daughter handing the toy in her hand to Zhu Qiang without any resistance. To be honest, this style is not like my daughter. I just took the steps over there and heard my daughter say to Zhu Kuai, "You are so pitiful. I want these toys, so my mother must buy them for me." "Your mother won't buy them for you? Doesn't he love you?" "Good guy," I said, "good guy. My daughter is so good at sowing discord." Zhu Qiang decisively threw away the toys, ran back to pull Yang Ping's hair, and said, "Buy me a new gun, you bad mother. I don't want such a broken toy. Buy me a new one." Zhu Qiang didn't know how to control the severity of her attack. Yang Ping was torn by her and had no choice but to agree. Zhu Qiang tasted the sweetness. Since then, if Yang Ping didn't buy him anything he wanted, he would tear his hair. When he was older, he even started to use his fists. Maybe it's because enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. When I spent a happy weekend with my daughter, I often met Yang Ping and her son. Yang Ping knew that she couldn't argue with me verbally, so she didn't confront me head on. He instigated Zhu Qiang to use his destructive power to let her bully my daughter, but every time my daughter pushed him back with a few ounces of force. Zhu Qiang came to grab my daughter's ice cream, and my daughter decisively gave it to her, saying, "Ice cream is so delicious. Why doesn't your mother buy it for you? Doesn't he want to spend money on you?" My mother said that it's a lie that children can't eat it. "If others can eat it, I can eat it too." Alas, your mother Zhu Qiang pushed her daughter unhappily, and her daughter simply sat on the ground and continued to say, "You are such a big child. Why do you still listen to your mother?" My mother said that Mama's boy has no future, and my mother is reluctant to let me eat the ice cream left by others. Your father and your grandmother should be the ones who love you the most. They don't satisfy you with such a simple request, so they definitely don't love you. You must have the courage to pursue your rights. After all, your family's money will be yours sooner or later, and you can spend it however you want. Zhar Huang with intellectual defects. What's more, he is only 5 years old now and can't distinguish between good and bad. He only recognizes the side that is beneficial to himself. The cruel and naive provocations of his daughter took root in his heart. Soon, he turned their family upside down because they all knew that he was a bad boy. They indulged her more and had to endure her temper. As Shui Yang became stronger and stronger, Zhu Ming missed his daughter's obedience more and more. He secretly went to school to see his daughter several times. His daughter was the school's dedicated little host and was the child of other parents. This made him feel proud. The contrast between the two was huge. He thought about it for a long time and asked Yang Ping for a divorce, wanting to pursue me again. I laughed at him for being a fool. Did he think I was a garbage recycling station? Yang Ping was almost collapsed by Zhu Yang's torture. He was almost crazy when he heard the news. He had been competing with me for his whole life and basically got everything he wanted, but he didn't expect that the man he had finally gotten would give up her and come back to me. Over the years, Zhuming and Yang Ping always quarreled. He couldn't stand Yang Ping's hysterical appearance when she was jealous and quarreled with him. After he filed for divorce, he moved out without being bothered. From time to time, he would wait for me at the gate of his daughter's school to show his loyalty to me. No matter how Yang Ping quarreled with him, he never returned to their home. Though what does this have to do with me, his ex-wife? I ignored her at all. I have a job next door. I had to go on a business trip for 2 days. I asked a friend to help me take care of my daughter. I worked day and night, and when I got back to the hotel, I lay down to catch up on my sleep. I didn't notice that the phone that was about to go out of service was plugged in with a charging cable, but not a charging head. When I woke up, it was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. I saw that the phone was out of power, and I was quite helpless, so I immediately charged it. After turning on the phone, a steady stream of messages popped up on the phone, and all the blood in my body rushed to my head. My friends said that my mother and Yang Ping forcibly took my daughter away and called the police, but because they couldn't contact me, the police couldn't do anything about it. I hurried downstairs to take a taxi back to Ha's High, and I didn't even take care of my luggage. I always felt an inexplicable panic in my heart. I couldn't get through to them all when I called them, so I could only urge the driver to go faster and faster. When I arrived downstairs of Yang Ping's house, there were circles of people surrounding it, and the whole building was on fire. Firefighters were urgently putting out the fire and saving people. My legs, what we can die, collapsed on the ground. My daughter, I seemed to have lost the ability to think. My mind was full of panic and sadness. Until the firefighter came out holding a small figure. After the doctor's examination, no abnormalities were found, but it would be better to go to the hospital for a detailed examination. I held my daughter and sat on the side of the ambulance. Soon, the firefighter lifted a bloody person on the bed of the ambulance. Looking at my daughter, who was a little blue in my arms, I was extremely relieved. Fortunately, my daughter was fine. The person on the bed was not someone else, but my mother. After the ambulance arrived at the hospital, the doctor pushed the bed and walked in quickly. A nurse said anxiously that the blood reserve in the hospital was insufficient. My mother, who was struggling with a vague consciousness, raised her hand to hold me and told the nurse that she was also type O blood and used his blood. Then she turned around and looked at me fiercely, saying that you were born by me and you owed me all your blood. You must give it to me, give it back to me. The nurse waved her hand quickly, saying that blood transfusions cannot be given to direct relatives. I smiled gently. Yes, direct relatives cannot be directly transfused. Oh, by the way, do you remember when Yang Ping was in a car accident and needed blood urgently? My dad had the same blood type as him, but he refused to give him a blood transfusion. My mom seemed to have forgotten the pain and her expression was blank. The police soon found out the cause of the fire. Yang Ping and my mom took my daughter to their home, and my daughter threatened Zhu Ming to go back. Yang Ping prepared a table full of sumptuous dishes and acted gentle and considerate. After Zhu Ming finished his meal, she took her to bed. Zhu Ming seemed to have forgotten that he wanted a divorce, and my mom locked my daughter on the balcony. Some time ago, because of the divorce, Yang Ping beaten and scolded Zhu Qiang, blaming him for the divorce. My mom also scolded him and no longer indulged him as before. XYY was full of hatred, and while they were all asleep, he set a fire. When his daughter was rescued on the balcony, the fire had not spread to that place, and the people in the house were miserable. The whole family was sent to the hospital. My mother's room was closest to the door, and he woke up early before going to sleep. He could have escaped safely, but he turned back to save Yang Ping. His legs were burned by the fallen or frame, which was not good for the flesh. It was really a touching motherly love. I pushed open the door of the ward and heard my mother mumbling there. How could it be? Why? I sat beside his bed, picked up an apple and peeled it slowly. He turned his eyes and looked at me. Do you know something? After peeling the apple, I took a bite, moistened my throat, and slowly spoke. I do know something, such as Yang Ping was born to my father's first love. When you scolded me as a jinx in the confinement period, my father hugged Yang Ping and said that his daughter was his greatest treasure. Another example is my dad's first love, the employer you took care of when you were an Annie. You never thought that you made money, but in fact, the salary came from my dad. You always think that he treats you badly because I am not a boy, but in fact, it is just because he does not love you. My mom's expression twisted for a moment. Her hands clenched into fists, veins popped out on her forehead, and then she said viciously, "So what? No matter how good that woman is, she is dead. Her daughter calls me mom, and I will be buried with your dad in the future." Hearing this, I couldn't help laughing. You don't know yet, after my dad died, Yang Ping was busy burying his mom and my dad together. At that time, my mom was only concerned with calculating the inheritance left by my dad and wanting to leave all the money to Yang Ping to teach me, an unfilial daughter, a lesson. She didn't realize that the feng shui treasure and he reserved for himself had already been occupied by other urns. Why didn't you stop it? What would I buy after I die? After all, this was my father's last wish. He said that the person he felt most sorry for in this life was Yang Ping's mother. You couldn't take it, so he wanted to compensate me after his death. My mother was decadent and weak, and the fighting spirit she had when facing me was gone all of a sudden. I looked at her curled up on the hospital bed and felt sad and ridiculous. She always thought of me. I am not a son. I was born without a uterus, as if I was born a sinner. Without the hope of giving birth to a son, she chose a feng shui treasure land early. I have never lived a good day for myself in the true sense, and have been pursuing happiness after death. The truth of my mother and I for so many years, how come the little family affection is gone? These days I have been accompanying him in bed, just to let him feel what is called retribution in this life. When I was a child, I wished him to take care of me in a certain way, so I took care of him in the same way. If he really recovered, I would complain that he lived to such an old age in vain like a waste. Whenever he asked me to help him get something, I would throw it at him. I always had a bad face and spoke in a sarcastic tone. When facing others, I would immediately put on a smiling face, constantly belittling him and repeatedly mentioning the trivial things I did for him to show my filial piety. My mother soon couldn't stand it any more. She knew that I had inherited his temper and was always cruel. There was no way for us to reconcile as mother and daughter. If he wanted me to take care of him in his old age, I would treat him the same way as I did during the time in the hospital, and even more so without the constraints of outsiders. So I gave up the idea of asking me to take care of him in his old age. She told me that she knew he was wrong back then, and he would go back and let Yang Ping take care of him in his old age, but he would make a will, and when he died, all his inheritance would be left to me. I sneered and thought it didn't matter. Even if he relied on me and asked me to support him, I would only support him according to the legal standards, just like he said back then, as long as he didn't die. Yang Ping and Zhu Ming fell into a deep sleep afterwards. They were the most seriously injured and lay in bed for several months, exhausting the family savings they had accumulated over the years. The culprit was that their sons could not hold them accountable. My mother pushed her wheelchair towards Yang Ping's ward, cursing. That bitch told me that your face was the reincarnation of a debt collector and would bring me bad luck. Now it seems that she gave birth to a debt collector. I understood it in my heart. No wonder she kept pouring water on me when she was on Annie. Whenever I said something to her, she would misinterpret my meaning and think that I was a flood and a beast, just because of someone else's casual slander. My mother will never let me down when it comes to disappointing me. Today is the day when Yang Ping are discharged from the hospital. They have packed up their things in the ward. Seeing me appear, Zhu Ming covered the scar on his face with embarrassment. Why are you here? At the same time, Yang Ping's sharp voice came. What are you doing here? I laughed sincerely, of course, because I came to see your joke. This was the first time that my mother did not jump out to help Yang Ping scold me. She just looked back at me, then turned around and naggingly helped them pack their things. However, she was no longer as efficient as before, and her hands were disorganized. The more she helped, the more chaotic the situation became. Yang Ping had no idea that my mother had already known her true life experience. She still thought that she was the mother who was on the same front with him and really wanted to trample me under her feet. I came here purely to return this big trouble of my mother to them. After watching the joke, I turned around and left. They are a proper family, and they should torture each other for the rest of their lives. Later, my daughter and I lived a good life, and occasionally heard about the end of their family. It is said that after Yang Ping returned home, he no longer felt that Zhu Qiang was his beloved son. He regarded him as a demon and drove hundreds of kilometers with Zhu Ming to abandon him in the endless barren mountains. The couple called the police and cried for a few days. Finally, they were relieved, thinking that Zhu Qiang would never come back. But unexpectedly, Zhu Qiang was picked up by a hiker who was exploring the wilderness and sent back home. Zhu Qiang naturally knew that his parents wanted to abandon him, but he learned to play well. He pretended to be timid and cowardly, which made the couple relax their vigilance little by little. Yang Ping thought he was really scared, so she began to threaten her with throwing him into the mountains. She vented all the unhappiness in her life on him. Zhu Qiang's mentality became more and more distorted day by day, and they didn't notice it when they were busy with the trivialities of life. It was not until Zhu Ming took Xu Qiang to attend the birthday celebration of the boss's son that Xu Qiang ran away without paying attention. When he was found, he abused and killed the boss's pet dog. The boss was furious, and Zhu Ming lost his high-paying job because of this. As the Chinese New Year approached, Zhu Ming discussed with Yang Ping about returning to his hometown for the new year. When Zhuang saw the endless mountains, he thought they were going to take the opportunity to throw him away again, so he picked up Xu Ming, who was driving, and strangled him. At this time, Xu was already an adult, tall and strong, and my mother and Yan Ping's attempts to stop him were useless. In the end, the car rolled down the ravine for dozens of meters. The police notified me to collect the body in March when the ice and snow melted. Grandma Qian cried to the sky over Zhu Ming's urn, and I, who seemed calm and held my mother's urn, was particularly cold-blooded. In addition to the urn, the police also gave me a piece of paper, which was my mother's relic. It said that he had asked someone to dig out the urns of my father and Yang Ping's mother and threw them away, asking me to bury him in his piece of feng shui treasure land. The handwriting was hasty, and the police judged that he should have left it when the car was squeezed and deformed and he couldn't find a mobile phone to ask for help. I felt a little sad in my heart, but it didn't cause any big waves. After I dealt with these things, I sold the old house left by my mother. After all, there were no good memories for me in it. After the police announced the case of their family, it caused widespread discussion at the social level. The things that happened in their family before were also dug up by netizens. Some people said that they deserved it. The illegitimate child born by the cheating man and the mistress killed their family. This is retribution. They let her give birth to a super bear child who is called a born bad seed for this gender. After giving birth, she didn't discipline and educate the child well. In the end, she suffered the consequences and destroyed herself. I can only say that she deserved it. I thought about it again and again, and finally told my daughter the news of Zhang Ming's death. My daughter was stunned for a while and didn't speak for a long time. I hugged my daughter in my arms and lowered my voice very softly. If you are sad, you can cry for a while, but I am not sad. My daughter's muffled voice came back. It is because she is not sad, so I wonder if I am abnormal. Am I a person without emotions? In fact, it is normal to think about it. When Zhang Ming and I were not divorced, our daughter was still young, and she was always invisible at home. Later, we divorced. In the past few years, when our daughter grew up, they didn't spend a few days together. For our daughter, Zhang Ming was more like a distant relative with the title of father. I rubbed my daughter's head and asked, "Isn't it better not to be sad?" My daughter raised her head and looked at me with dark eyes. I continued, "Remember, baby, not everyone is worth making you sad." My daughter may not understand it now, but it doesn't matter. She still has a lot of time to grow up, and one day she will understand it. People should not demand themselves by the standards of others. Only they can demand themselves. After all, only they can be responsible for their own lives. The full text is over. Thank you for watching.